The main event, former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer.
You need to leave.
After waiting 9 long hours for Dana White to hop on Instagram Live where he is filming off of his PSP, and we're all hoping that he's going to announce maybe Lerone versus Movzar in London for the #1 contender spot at featherweight, or JDM versus Carlos Prates, or maybe Michael Morales, Yuri versus Carlos Ulberg, shit, maybe even Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane for an interim heavyweight championship, or literally any UFC 327 news, we get this announcement of Joe Pyfer versus Israel Adesanya and Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber as the main and co-main event of UFC Fight Night Seattle on March 28th. Really two of the fights of all time. You're probably thinking to yourself, it doesn't get any better than this. And you're right. These are literally the kind of fights that you dream of watching. Washed Israel Adesanya fight Joe, turn the body cam off Pyfer. And honestly, the funniest part of this whole announcement was Dana White didn't even say goodbye to us on the live stream. His phone just died and it cut out. Let's watch back the end of this live stream here. Let me put this bitch in full screen. Here we go.
Tickets are on sale February 6th.
Tickets are on sale.
Ladies and gentlemen, March 28th.
Oh, he's going to say goodbye to us?
And streaming on.
Oh, Dana White just disappears right there. We don't know where Dana White went. His phone just died as he gave us this fucking phoned in, half-assed fight announcements where we only got 2 fights. Again, we were all speculating all these amazing fights and none of them happened. But I'll say this. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer, I'm actually not mad about the matchup. You know, I'm confused. I didn't really understand why this was being made. I figured we'd get like Izzy versus Paulo Costa, and that was before I knew he was going to fight Mirzakhanov. Or like MVP, even though I think that'd be an incredibly boring fight. I thought that made so much more sense. I didn't think Adesanya would be fighting the 15th ranked middleweight in the division. But this is one of those classic, like, how washed are you matchup. How washed is Israel Adesanya? Because he just lost to Nasruddin Imavov, earlier last year. And Imavov's the #1 contender. That's a legit fucking guy to lose to. No shame there. And Izzy was honestly doing okay in that fight up until he got knocked out. And Dana also, I forgot to mention this, he couldn't have been any less excited to, you know, fucking talk about Israel Adesanya and Joe Pyfer. He was reading off of like the teleprompter or whatever he's got next to him. Israel Adesanya's accomplishments. It's like he should be able to rattle all that shit off his head. You know, Israel Adesanya, one of the greatest middleweights ever. You should be able to tell me how many title defenses he had. Fucking multi-time middleweight champion. Joe Pyfer, I get he's on a 3-5 win streak. He hasn't done a ton of amazing shit. But Israel Adesanya, that's the guy who got a bunch of people into the fucking sport. You should be rattling shit off, glazing this dude, sucking his cock. But Joe, you know, Dana White doesn't give a fuck about anybody other than John Jones. But he also was more excited in the beginning of the live stream to talk about Zuffa boxing than he was to even talk about this UFC Seattle card. So he's a bitch for that. But listen. Am I slightly worried for Izzy going into this fight? Kind of. Like, Joe Pyfer has power in his hands. He can grapple very well, honestly. Like, when he decides to wrestle, he can wrestle well. We saw him mix it in really well against Abus Magomedov in his last fight. He doesn't really have, like, super complex striking or, like, really long, sick combinations. So he just really, again, he's just a power merchant. Israel Adesanya, though, I would lean him in this fight. You know, a guy who has ton of main event experience, ton of 5-round experience, better cardio, better striking, much more technical striking, and really good takedown defense. So I think he can definitely win this fight. The one thing I'll say for Joe Pyfer, though, which worries me for Israel Adesanya, is he is a white middleweight who had fatherly issues in his past. Like, his dad used to beat him. Sean Strickland's dad also used to beat Israel Adesanya. Not Israel Adesanya. Sean Strickland's dad also used to beat Sean Strickland, and Sean Strickland beat Israel Adesanya. So maybe Joe Pyfer and his daddy issues will help him beat Israel Adesanya. I don't know. That's just an idea. But again, I really do feel like Israel Adesanya can win this fight. I am excited. I've gone back and forth throughout my time as a UFC fan if I like Izzy or not. I've always respected him. You know, one of the most dominant middleweights ever, one of the most skilled fighters we've ever seen. Another thing that I don't think enough, like anybody who's kind of picking Joe Pyfer to win this, Joe Pyfer's fucking lost to Jack Hermanson. And if you're a Jack Hermanson loss victim in 2026, like you're still around, hanging around here in the rankings, why the fuck would I pick you to be one of the best middleweights ever? I don't care what you think about Izzy. I don't care if you think this guy's entirely washed. Because listen, he is washed, but you're telling me he can't beat Joe fucking Pyfer? Joe Pyfer's best win is Abus Magomedov or Kelvin Gastelum. I don't give a fuck. Israel Adesanya is going to win this. I think he can get a late finish in this. And as for Macy Barber versus Alexa Grasso, I'll just touch on this quickly. Like I like Macy Barber when she's healthy. She's fun to watch. Alexa Grasso, I don't really care about. This is obviously their second fight. I'll just take Macy Barber to win. I don't really have much to say about it. I was just disappointed that we waited 9 hours and all we got was just, the main and co-main announcement for a random fight night in March. Like, we couldn't get a Movzar versus Lerone matchup. I thought at the very least we were going to get Movzar versus Lerone Murphy in London, because that card's before this one. I think it's the week before this. But other than that, I also wanted to say, like, if Israel Adesanya loses in this fight, if he gets fucking chinned and put out cold by Joe Pyfer, I'm gonna be devastated. If this guy's career ends in a random fight night in Seattle, I'm gonna be fucking devastated. And I hope he wins, because I this could be his retirement fight, which would be very weird if Israel Adesanya, his career ends at the hands of Joe Pyfer. I hope he wins this and then can get like we get a trilogy with him and Robert Whittaker. They're both washed. Maybe we get an MVP. Maybe we get Apollo Costa. Maybe like Baralio if he loses to RDR. There's still options for him. I want him to get a bigger name for his retirement fight. That's really why I want him to win this more than anything. If he loses his next fight against a bigger name, I won't care as much, but I just don't want him to fucking lose to Joe Pyfer. But I also want to do a quick talk about how Dana White doesn't give a shit about the sport anymore. Not that this is a new take by any means, but just look at this guy's reaction to people criticizing the Diego Lopez getting a rematch against Alexander Volkanovski. Here we go. It was with Complex. I'll scroll back here.
Lopez 2. Some people,
right, what is Dana gonna say?
questioning why there was a rematch when the first fight felt a little decisive on Volk's behalf.
Yeah. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
If you don't like it, don't watch it. You are the promoter of the company. You are the face of the company, Dana White. And your response to Diego Lopez getting an undeserved rematch and people criticizing the matchmakers for it is, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Way to fucking go, Dana. Way to fucking go. You can't just be like, I wish he was just honest. Like, we just want the Mexican fan base. That would be a lot better of a response. But, pathetic answer. We all know Lerone Murphy or Movzar. Listen, I get they're not box office like Diego Lopez. That's my fucking guy, like Viva la Mexico. But those guys deserve more, especially Lerone Murphy, because if Aaron Pico went out there and knocked Lerone Murphy's ass out, the UFC would have built Aaron Pico up and said, this guy should get the next this kid Aaron Pico, he should get the next title shot against Volk. Let me tell you something. That would have happened. Lerone Murphy gets a highlight reel KO on Aaron Pico. He should be there, regardless if you like Lerone Murphy or not. I've never been the biggest Lerone Murphy fan, or Movzar. I've never really liked Movzar, but they're both very deserving to at least have a title shot. But prime Dana White, man, this guy used to be so excited for press conferences and events. Like, he would openly say, like, dudes got robbed, like Johnny Hendricks, was robbed against GSP, or he would shit on the refs openly. And I feel like after the UFC deal, he kind of phoned it in. To a degree, I understand why. You build the company up from nothing and you make all this money and then you really feel like you made it. And at a certain point, you're just like, what the fuck's the point of like caring anymore? I have all the money in the world. Like, look at this. Look how happy Dana White is in this clip. Look how giddy this guy is. Here's a clip right after the ESPN. They signed the ESPN deal.
Potential broadcast partners
Look at him pumping his fist right there. Hold on, let's get a replay on that fist bump.
On the list. Look
at this fist bump. Oh, there we go, fist bump.
ESPN and all their platforms #1 on that list for you.
Obviously, if you look at, ESPN wouldn't cover us.
Look at that little grin he has right there.
Not too long ago.
Look at him.
And now we're on ESPN.
Oh.
We're in business with Disney.
We're business with Disney, the mouse, Dana.
The most monumental thing that has happened
ever to
in
this
the history
company.
of this company, in the history of the sport, for everyone. It's big. I don't care
I'm going to stop it right there. You know, he just kind of glazes a little bit after that. But look how happy he was. You saw the little shit-eating grin. Look at that little fit. Look at that little pump of the fist he gave. He's like, yes. Like, where is that from Dana White? I never see this dude smiling unless he's gambling with the fucking Nelk boys and playing Baccarat or Blackjack or whatever the fuck his game of choice is. And I wish they would invest more into the promotion. You see a lot of independent content creators, like even editors like Gladiator Hub or like Solar on TikTok and IG. They do these great like hype up videos for these cards and fighters. And the UFC doesn't really give us much. I mean, you get like, what's it called? You get really nothing from them. Today, though, they actually put out a good video. It was for the Patty versus Justin Gaethje matchup where it was like, turn the lights on, carry me home. It was Blink 182. Everybody knows that. Those are the boys. That was a sick video. I actually really liked that one. But I want to see more promotion for the sport. I'm not asking Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor, no Church in the Wild for every single card. But I'm just asking for more from the UFC. And I also want big press conferences back. I know they've played around with the seasonal press conference like a couple of months back, and we got the Charles versus Max announcement there. That was sick. I want to see more of that, and I want to see in-person interviews with fighters. You know, we remember those Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor ones were great, where Dana's sitting in between them. I want to see more of that. Get these dudes in the room, build these storylines up, build these fights up more, because it's really all on the fighters and the fans to do it. And the fighters kind of suck at promoting themselves, a lot of them, and then bitch about fighter pay when they fight once a year, like Hamza Chimaev. But I just wish Dana was more invested in the storylines and into the fighters. I feel like he doesn't really care as much. And listen, without Dana White, the UFC is not where they are today. He's the most important, figure in the UFC's history. You know what I mean? He's one of the most important figures in just MMA in general, because he's gotten mixed martial arts to the point where it is today. And I think he used to box. Like, he's not a fucking fighter, but he's a promoter. He's helped build this company to where it is today. He's built this company, not helped. He's built this company to where it is today. And I also would like less fight announcements on IG Live, where we have to wait 10 hours for him to get on there and sound half excited for the fights, and he just seems fucking annoyed. And if he doesn't want to do that anymore, if he doesn't want to announce these fights anymore, just retire. Like, you're not nearly as important to the business as you used to be. You know what I mean? And the guy, again, his heart isn't fully into it. And it's kind of one of those things where you have like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, like just fully leave. It's like anytime somebody contemplates retirement in the UFC, that's when you just know they're going to lose. Just leave. I leave it at that. But his job's to promote. He doesn't do it well enough. He's done a great job, but it isn't really cutting it anymore. So I think I'm just critical of Dana White for responses like that. Like that Volk versus Diego Lopez 2 fight is so fucking stupid. And then you have guys like Dana White coming out here and saying, if you don't like it, don't watch. Like, what kind of promotion is that? Like, just get a better answer. Just be like, you know what, Diego Lopez, he's a really exciting finisher. We want him here. We feel like both on the road are boring. If he said that, I honestly would be I would back him up more. But again, no, I'm not trying to shit on Dana White entirely. Without him, I'm not here right now talking about the UFC. But yeah, that's kind of the video. Just wanted to recap a little bit of this Izzy fight news. Clown on Dana a little bit for just filming on a PSP to give us fight announcements. Again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I think Izzy's beating Joe Pyfer. That's my early prediction. Again, remember to like, comment, subscribe. The Doctor is signing off.